Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Ole! Ole! It's Joe time! Welcome back, everybody, to a pretty exciting and crazy round of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And let me tell you, I really do emphasize crazy on this episode. So much so that with the stories that I have for you today, well, I know that usually we would go and do 5 different stories that we would go and discuss here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, but I decided to go and cut it down to 4, mainly because of the fact that the stories that I have for you today. Oh, and on a side note, thank you very much, KS19 Green, for the subscription right there. Really nice of you. And I see some new first-time people on the chat wall. Hello, everyone. But anyways, as I was saying, yes, I'm only going to do 4 stories today because with these ones, I have a lot to say about them. Oh yes, even though there's going to be fewer stories than usual, I'm sure the runtime, it will still be the same, or debatably even longer, because trust me, what we are about to get into are some pretty crazy stories, I can tell you that. This is going to be one of those moments where the crazy on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast will be emphasized. Alright, so with that said, now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Let's see, are you ready? Yes, okay, now it's starting to begin. Yes, that's great to see. That is great to hear. That is beautiful. And so, with all that said, let's go ahead and get this one started. Now, with the first story that I have for you today, unfortunately, we are going to go and begin this a little bit on a low note, on a sad note, because what happened last week, well, there was something that occurred that was unexpected, but very much heartbreaking. In fact, I was actually at a voiceover session. I was doing my work, and then when I saw the news happen, like, I was just in shock. Like, thankfully, it was during a time when, like, some of the producers and the directors, they were talking amongst each other, like, about what they can do about certain lines that I've done. But when I saw the news, it was like, oh, crap. Like, it was a moment where I was just in complete shock of that moment that, like, it actually did happen, especially something that occurred so soon. So, with that said, let's go ahead and begin this by talking about the unfortunate death of Gilbert Gottfried. Yes, it has been confirmed on Tuesday last week that Gilbert Gottfried, the legendary comedian, has unfortunately passed away at the surprisingly young age of 67. Where in this article here on Variety, it has been confirmed that apparently, according to the Washington Post, he died of type 2 myotonic dystrophy, which is apparently a form of muscular dystrophy. And even on Twitter, which on Gilbert Gottfried's official Twitter account, that's where it actually broke the news. And they actually put out the word by saying, "We are heartbroken to announce the passing of our beloved Gilbert Gottfried after a long illness. In addition to being the most iconic voice in comedy, Gilbert was a wonderful husband, brother, friend, and father to his 2 young children. Although today is a sad day for all of us, please keep laughing as loud as possible in Gilbert's honor." Now, in the world of comedy, Gilbert Gottfried is known to be one of the raunchiest comedians of all time. Basically, the kind of guy who just has no limits when it comes to the kind of material that he would get into. And whenever he would go and pull out his jokes, he can get unapologetically nasty about it. In fact, one of his most famous skits, one of his most famous jokes, which is the Aristocrats joke, is like one of the filthiest things that you could ever go and hear. I won't play any clips of it, but if you know, then you know. And I'll get more into this later, but of course, with the kind of like raunchy and shocking materials that he would go and provide in his comedy, it does happen when he would go and get into trouble. But there is also another iconic thing about Gilbert Gottfried, and that is regarding his voice. He has that very iconic, high-pitched, raspy voice that whenever you would hear it in some way, shape, or form, anyone could go and immediately recognize it. Which is why Gilbert Gottfried is very well known, and possibly his most well-known role in movies ever is being the voice of Iago in Disney's 1992 classic Aladdin, a role in which he was very committed to playing in numerous of different forms of like TV shows, movies, rides, and what have you. Again, that's something I will get more into this later. And not to mention that he did also have a prominent career in voice acting, where he also played Digit in cyberspace, as well as voicing in many other roles as crap, I think I'm gonna really mispronounce this, but Mr. McZiptic in Superman the Animated Series. I think I got that wrong, but yeah, it's one of those names that don't really have much vowels. That's very much needed. Yes, and a lot of people are mentioning in the chat wall that he is also the voice of the Aflac duck in the Aflac commercials. He was also the voice of Krang Subprime in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Dr. Bender and his son Wendell in the Fairly Odd Parents. He was also in shows such as SpongeBob, The Ren and Stimpy Show, Duckman, and so much more. Not to mention being a special guest in numerous of different TV shows, rather it be for game shows or variety shows or for competition shows or what have you. He was a frequent guest in stuff like Hollywood Squares, Pyramid, Celebrity Apprentice, and even in Celebrity Roast, where they even mentioned that he did appear in roasts for Bob Saget, Joan Rivers, David Hasselhoff, Donald Trump, and Roseanne Barr, and probably several others as well. Now, the fact that Gilbert Gottfried passed away is something that, honestly, I find to be very much unexpected, especially the fact that he passed away at the age of 67. And I know that technically some could say that 67 is kind of an old number. Like, that's at the age where, like, you would be considered a bit old. But dying at 67, that's, like, another thing entirely. That is still considered relatively young. I mean, like, with Gilbert Gottfried, like, he died an age older than Walt Disney, who passed away at the age of 66, or was about to be, or I think, like, he just turned 66 or was 67, like, somewhere around that. But yeah, it was honestly shocking, and something that not many people knew, that he was even fighting a long illness in the first place. But one thing that I do have to say is that when it came to Gilbert Gottfried's illness, I had a feeling that he had something. Like, I didn't know specifically that he had a form of muscular dystrophy, but in recent years, when it comes to his, like, recent appearances, I feel like there was something different about Gilbert Gottfried than he was before, where there was something about him that feels like he was less energetic than what he was back in, like, the 2000s, the 1990s, and so on and so forth. Oh, and some people are confirming to me that apparently Walt Disney died at the age of 65. Well, yeah, okay. So he died at 65. It's around that ballpark. You guys did get what I mean, though. Like, okay, so Gilbert Gottfried died like 2 years older than when Walt Disney died. But you guys get what I mean. Like, rather it be 65 or 67, that is still an age that it's still considered very young for passing away. But anyways, as I was saying, yes, with Gilbert Gottfried, yeah, it was, it felt like it was pretty clear, or subtly clear, that Gilbert Gottfried had something that was keeping him away from being that fully energetic comedian that we knew him from the past. Now, of course, some people might say, well, maybe he's just getting old, and it's easy to pass that. But then again, it was just something that felt unnatural in terms of his recent performances. And probably the first time that this actually gave me a clue, the first time that I felt that way was actually in his appearance on The Angry Video Game Nerd. You guys probably remember back in mid-2019 when he appeared in the Angry Video Game Nerd episode Life of Black Tiger, where he actually played the personification of the running gag in the show, Fred Fox. And let's just go and quickly take a listen. Like, just listen a little bit to Gilbert Gottfried's voice in here, or at least, like, check out, like, just take a look at his performance in this. Like, I think over here, that should be a good example.
In Asia. This must be it.
Who the fuck goes there? Who the fuck are you? Answer me, tough guy, or I'll blast a hole in you so big I could stick my cock in it. And I don't want to brag.
Hey, man, it's cool. It's cool. I'm just looking for a game designer.
Game designer. You seek Fred Fox.
You know him?
Okay, so that is just like a little bit of an example, like in that particular episode, but you could hear that a little bit where like Gilbert Gottfried was pretty clear in what he was saying, but it's just the speed of it is just relatively slow. That beforehand, Gilbert Gottfried can just he could blast off and he could talk really fast. Like, what is wrong with you? What the hell am I doing in this situation? You're looking for Fred Fox? Well, yes, I am Fred Fox. He could go really fast with it, but in here, it's like he's really taking his time to enunciate the words, almost like he's trying to solve a puzzle on Wheel of Fortune. Like, it's going at that speed where it's very unnatural. And just hearing him, I don't know if it's because doing that usual Gilbert Gottfried shtick, it would become increasingly tiring, but it's just, it felt like Gilbert Gottfried was not the same here as he was before. And this is not the only example. Like, another prominent example that I could think of, I don't have a clip of it, but you guys would probably know what I'm talking about, is actually his last performance that he did when he was alive, which is, or at least, I know some people could say, well, technically he's going to appear in more episodes of Cyber Chase, but I mean, the last performance that did air when he was alive, and I mean the final episode of Smiling Friends, or at least the final episode of the first season, where Gilbert Gottfried actually played as God. And if you listen to that, you could actually hear a little bit that Gilbert Gottfried was also playing it pretty slow with his dialogue. He didn't have a lot of dialogue in there in the first place, but even with the little lines that he had, he was doing it pretty slow. I'm giving you a second chance, Charlie. I hope that you enjoy the adventure that you had throughout your travels in hell. I don't think that's the exact line, but that was another example that he was going pretty slow with his performance. So for me, I just feel like with the whole thing that Gilbert Gottfried has done, whether it be in terms of his appearances, like with the Angry Video Game Nerd or with Smiling Friends, there were just these subtle little clues that tell us that he did have something. He was fighting some kind of illness, or there was something wrong that's going in Gilbert Gottfried's body that's preventing him from being how he was back then. And some people may pass that off as age, but it turns out, yeah, he was, it turns out that he was pretty sick, and it's very unfortunate about it. Oh, and some people are saying that it was actually a good impression of Gilbert Gottfried. Thanks. I mean, that's one thing I do want to add quickly, that like Gilbert Gottfried's voice, I mean, it's so iconic. And like I said before, it's the kind that you could immediately recognize, rather it be like whenever he would appear in a TV show or in a commercial or whatever, or when someone does an impression of Gilbert Gottfried, like you could tell that it's him immediately. Like I've tried it a few times, but I didn't expect that like right now with this moment that I would actually get it right. Which actually does bring me to another point, actually, like going outside into the illness aspect. It is true that with Gilbert Gottfried, he does have that very iconic voice. And I mean, who could forget his performance in Aladdin? Like the way that he brings Iago to life. And like, yeah, sure, the quality of his voice, like he can sound like a parrot, but it's also just the sheer attitude that he delivers with Iago that really makes his performance truly shine in there. Now, I've already talked about the original 1992 Aladdin plenty of times. In fact, in my YouTube channel, I've already done a full review of the film. But when it comes to Gilbert Gottfried, with his performance in there, like it's just so much fun. And one beautiful thing about that Aladdin movie is just the sheer amount of comic reliefs that they do have. And each of them actually stand out beautifully in their own right, rather it be with Robin Williams as the genie, rather it be with Gilbert Gottfried as Iago, or even some of the non-verbal comic reliefs like Abu or the Magic Carpet. Like they managed to know how to blend quantity with quality and make the actors that play them or the animators that would draw them to really do shine. And with Iago, they like Gilbert Gottfried did such a wondrous job. And as I said before, Gilbert Gottfried is one of those rare actors that really is committed to playing his character in whatever program or whatever project that he would appear in. Like he's one of those few actors that the grand majority of the time it's just that one actor playing that role. There might be a few exceptions like in the Broadway show or even in the 2019 remake, which in that one was played by Alan Tudyk, where he's mostly just going on the side being like, very interesting. But with Gilbert Gottfried, the grand majority of time, when you see it's Iago, it's actually played by Gilbert Gottfried. Rather it be in like not just in the 1992 movie, but also in the direct-to-home media sequels like Return to Jafar and Aladdin Aladdin King of Thieves. There is also TV shows like the Aladdin series and also the the Aladdin series. Oh yeah, and the House of Mouse. Like whenever Iago is in the House of Mouse, it is Gilbert Gottfried for sure. And then there's also video games. Like Gilbert Gottfried would also lend his voice in video games, especially the Kingdom Hearts games. Funny enough, he actually did make some appearance, considering that Aladdin is actually a fan favorite level. So of course, Iago would go and appear a few times, and it would actually be voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. And there are plenty of different examples where Gilbert was Iago, even in like some of the DVDs and Blu-rays of Aladdin, or even in theme parks. Like in the theme park, there are some theme park rides where Iago actually does appear, and there are times when it's actually voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. And there is no better example of that than the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management. And like you probably remember, like especially if you do watch videos that are based on the Disney parks and stuff like that, then you know the story of the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management, which is actually very straightforward of IPs taking over a classic original Disney attraction. And it's often said to be considered a massive disaster. But one thing that I do have to say is that, and I'm going to be very honest, and this could be the hottest take of this episode, I think Enchanted Tiki Room under new management is such a guilty pleasure. It is so stupid, that is for sure, but my God, like, it's almost self-aware of how stupid that they really are, of desperately trying to be modern and hip with the young crowd, and like how it really is just existing IPs taking over an original Disney attraction. In fact, let me show you one example of Gilbert Gottfried's performance in the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management, and You tell me you didn't have a smile on your face when you saw this moment. Here, like, just take a listen, and you tell me if you didn't smile at this.
Obviously, you birds don't know who we are. Don't you guys ever fly to the movies?
We don't get out much.
We are, how do you say, attached to the place.
Well, don't get too attached, chumps, 'cause we're the new owners.
New owners?
That's right. Now listen, you bird brains. If you're gonna keep your jobs, you gotta get hip. I know all about it, see? 'Cause I'm a very famous movie star, and all of Hollywood trusts my name. Who cares about Aladdin or Jafar? I'm the one with all the looks and fame. I got 1,000,000 crackers in the bank, and I plan to get 1,000,000,000 more. And you guys will all have me to thank when they're lining up at the door. You are boring tiki birds, I'm a big celebrity. That's why I'm gonna go and change your show. Ain't it great to have a friend like me?
But, senor, we've done the same show.
Yeah, since 1963.
My, how time flies. Get a life, you guys. Your ancient history. Can your tails do this? Can your wings do that? Can you bad bird sing? Hip hop or rap? Can you rock and roll? Well, listen here. It's a whole new world, so you better get hip or your audience will disappear. And your showbiz magic land, rub me right, I'll set you free. You paid your dues, now you birds can't lose. Ain't it great to have a friend, great to have a friend. You can't wait to have a friend, wait to have friends. You ain't never had a friend like me. Ain't never had a friend like me.
You see, I mean, that is just so much fun. Like, again, we know it's not great. We know it's dumb as hell, but I mean, like, at least it has so much fun with it. Like, this is the kind of thing that, it's the same feeling that I had when watching Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Like, everything about it is just so stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous, but you can't help but have so much fun with it. And you could tell that Gilbert Gottfried was having so much fun doing this performance and having his own rendition of Friend Like Me, where he's just like telling off the Tiki-Roo birds that they're old-fashioned and he knows like how to be cool and hip, you know? It's just absolutely great. But there is also another thing that I do want to talk about in regards to Gilbert Gottfried, and this is something that is true, that when it comes to his comedy, as great as they can be, often, yes, it does get him in trouble. And there have been certain moments where, like, it really did end up screwing him over, and it did end up screwing over his career, because whenever you would go in that direction of being provocative, or when you would go and say something shocking, of course, there will be some consequences that did happen. In fact, I know a lot of you have mentioned that he was the original voice of the Aflac Duck, but he actually did end up losing that part because of a controversial joke that he made. Going back into my source here on Variety, there was even a little moment where it did talk about how there have been some times where his comedy did get him in trouble. It's stated here, his edgy and crude humor, however, got him into trouble on several occasions. 3 weeks after the September 11th terrorist attack, Gottfried joked that he couldn't catch a direct flight from New York to California because they say they had to stop at the Empire State Building first. The crowd gasped and decried too soon, but Gottfried was able to win the audience over and quickly made headlines by telling one of the first 9/11 jokes. Live at the 1991 Emmy Awards, Gottfried made several masturbation jokes about Paul Rubin's recent arrest for masturbating in an adult movie theater, which resulted in Gottfried being blacklisted by producers. The comedian also lost his job of voicing the Aflac Duck after tweeting jokes about the 2011 Tohoku Japanese earthquake disaster, which was the fourth most powerful earthquake to ever hit Japan. So, as beloved as the type of comedy that Gilbert Gottfried does, it does happen when you could be faced with some serious consequences. And yeah, unfortunately, like, it still happens today that sometimes when you would go and make a joke, you could face some serious consequence over it. And it could end up overshadowing some of your other achievements that you have done throughout your career. If you don't believe me, go ask Chris Rock. And yeah, with Gilbert Gottfried, with the type of comedy that he does, of course it'll happen when it would go and set him back. That's kind of the risk of the type of edgy and raunchy comedy that he would go. Like, sometimes when you would lose, you would end up losing hard. But there is also another side to it where when the joke lands well, then it lands beautifully. Like, you would be able to get some amazingly big laughs over it. And that's what makes Gilbert Gottfried stand out as a comedian, because when the jokes work, they work so amazingly well, and you can end up becoming like the big highlight of that moment, like the one that is able to get the biggest laughs. And that's why with many of his appearances, where rather it be stuff like Hollywood Squares or even like in Celebrity Apprentice, like, he could actually be the true standout moment of the program. And it's actually funny because when me and my friend did talk about Gilbert Gottfried, there was a moment when we actually did mention about his appearance in Celebrity Apprentice. And I remember that moment where, like, he would still go and do his usual shtick, and he ended up losing the whole competition because of his edgy humor. And it's ironic because, like, considering the things that we know about Donald Trump right now, we know for a fact that Gilbert Gottfried, even at his raunchiest, is actually quite tame in comparison. So it's actually kind of funny how, like, the perspective of all that, especially with The Apprentice or like all the variations like Celebrity Apprentice, like, times have certainly changed, and our perspective of that show, oh boy, it's completely different, especially knowing the idea that Gilbert Gottfried was in Celebrity Apprentice doing what he does, still not half as bad as whatever Donald Trump did behind the scenes. Oh boy. But yeah, back to what I was saying though, with Gilbert Gottfried, when he's great, he could be the true standout moment of the time that he would be there. And even like in his personal life, there is a little bit of an opposite reaction where, like, even though he would be like very provocative, like not afraid to go into the offensive line when it comes to jokes and stuff like that, he has been said by many to be this very welcoming, a little bit of a shy, and a very calm individual. In a way, Gilbert Gottfried seems to be the comedian that people really want to be, where behind the scenes, he is very sweet, he is very kind, you know, a very cool and calm person. But then when he would be on stage, he would be completely bombastic in a way that would be very loving, very entertaining, very enjoyable. So overall, when it comes to Gilbert Gottfried, this truly is a massive loss. And I know in recent years, we have lost a great amount of comedians that, you know, it really did hit hard, rather it be with Bob Saget or Betty White or several others. With Gilbert Gottfried, I feel like that is one that really did stand out the most, in which we really did miss quite a legendary performer. We really did miss someone that everyone can immediately recognize, that everyone knows the kind of performance that he has done, rather it be with his comedy bits or with his comedy bits, or like with his voiceover acts, like with Iago or Dr. Bender or what have you. He truly is a one-of-a-kind performer that, you know, he really does define often imitated, but never duplicated. And with Gilbert Gottfried, yeah, there's going to be no one else that will be like him whatsoever. And I think, honestly, this is going to be someone that so many people will absolutely miss. However, there is one thing that I do want to say. Considering that his family does wish that instead of mourning in sorrow for the passing of Gilbert Gottfried, we should look back at all the laughs that he has given us. And that's why to go and cap off this segment, or at least my part of this little story, I want to show you one of my favorite moments with Gilbert Gottfried, something that has always given me a laugh no matter how many times I watch it. And it's actually his moment during an episode of Hollywood Squares back in 1999 when he was one of the celebrities in the squares. And you'll see that this is what happens when you cannot get an answer right, and it's with Gilbert Gottfried.
Valerie going for a 5-square win here. Where you going?
Gilbert Gottfried for the win.
What a surprise. Okay. Gilbert, in a poll, 94% of Hungarians compared to only 46% of Americans said doing this was necessary to feel fulfilled. Doing what?
Having a child.
I disagree.
You fool!
having a child is correct, David. David? Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried. When she heard that Phileas Fogg had done it in 80 days, journalist Nellie Bly beat him by doing it in 72 days. What did she do?
This is rowing the Atlantic.
I'm gonna agree.
You fool!
She went around the world in 72 days. Its French designer named it the Atom because of its small size and the explosive effect a woman would have when she wore it. Today, it's better known as...
The tube top.
I agree.
You fool!
What significance does 1908 have if you were a Chicago Cubs fan?
It's the last perfect pitch game.
I'm gonna agree.
You fool!
Steve Austin. Steve Austin is a big bad professional wrestler fully known as...
The Crusher.
The Crusher.
I'll agree.
You fool!
Stone Cold, girl.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right, Officer Dave. Gilbert Gottfried for the win. Gilbert Gottfried for the win. By the way, if we run out of time during this or any other game, we're all going out for drinks. The word smog comes from what two words?
Smoke and fog.
Smoke and fog. I'm going to agree. Smoke and fog!
Oh boy, yeah, that is an abridged version, but oh my god, it was such a beautiful moment. And now I would like to go and ask the chat wall to honor Gilbert Gottfried. Please respond to me with what you think is the funniest moment from Gilbert Gottfried, or for you personally, what is your funniest moment that you had in relation with Gilbert Gottfried? Rather it be one of his jokes, rather it be any performance that he has done as Iago, any of his voice acting roles. Let me know what you think made you laugh the most from Gilbert Gottfried. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Oh boy, the chat wall is, chat wall is going fast here. Let's see here. Gilbert Gottfried is one of those actors with an iconic voice that practically anyone can do a good impression. Yourself included, dude. And his role is things like Aladdin and AVGN just solidified him as a comedic god. So it's devastating to see him go so suddenly. It's sad to see him go so suddenly. And with that said, may he rest in peace. Also, I kind of find it ironic as the news broke out. I had just finished the Aladdin level of Kingdom Hearts. An unintentional homage, I call it. Unintentional? I think you went too hard. Like, whatever attack you've done with your Keyblade, You went after Iago a little too hard right there. I think I know which level you're talking about, that Iago has the lamp and you need to get the lamp before like Iago can hand it over to Jafar or something like that. Or like Iago is like, haha, finders keepers, try to catch me. I remember, did you do this? Is it because of you with your stupid little keyblade? I'm just fooling around. All right. Let's see what other comments do we have here. Gilbert Gottfried was a legend when it comes to his voice acting. I recognize him as Iago from Aladdin, God from Smiling Friends, Berkeley Beetle from Thumbelina, and the Aflac Duck. Even though he makes jokes that are sometimes too far or offensive to everyone, he still stands out as one of the greatest. We really enjoy what makes himself hilarious and one of the best comedians and actors we've ever heard of. And the video you showed us got everyone, including me, a big lull. Thanks. There you go. And that's one thing that I do want to say about his comedy that really does stand out. Like I've already mentioned, the fact that, yes, it can get a little too offensive to the point where he, you know, to the point where he would get in trouble. But that's the admirable thing about Gilbert Gottfried, is that he's not afraid to go and take that risk. And it's often the risk takers that are the most admirable and the most unforgettable type of people. So I know this personally, that sometimes, like, when you do take the risk of saying something, you do risk that chance of like really screwing yourself over, and like you would end up getting massive backlash over it. But for the times that actually do work, it can work out so beautifully. And that's what makes Gilbert Gottfried so recognizable as a beloved comedian, is because he's willing to go and take those risks. Do they work all the time? No. But when they do, those are the moments that you will never forget. Let's see now. What else do we have here? I heard unfortunate news after coming out of my screening of Sonic 2. Gottfried was a one-of-a-kind comedian, and from what I heard, a humble family man. I have fond memories of Cyber Chase and in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy playing an underrated version of Santa Claus. I'm glad you played the You Fool segment. I was also going to recommend that clip to you and everyone in the chat wall. Oh my god, yeah, like the You Fool moment, like that was like, that's one of the most unforgettable times in Hollywood Squares history. And like even with this version of the late 90s, early 2000s version of Hollywood Squares, like there's nothing in that, like nothing in the history of that program in particular that could ever top the You Fool moment. Like it just worked out so beautifully. It's like all the stars and the planets aligned together, where it's Gilbert Gottfried that had the responsibility of having that unclaimed square. It could not have gone better than what it already is. Oh my god. Even the uncensored version, but like even the original airing version of it, like it's still so much better. It's like it's still really good. Let's see, what else do we have here? This is such a huge loss for film and comedy fans. Gilbert Gottfried is such a legendary comedian and voice actor, and it is very sad to hear about his passing. Gilbert Gottfried also did a voiceover for a commercial for a product called Shoudini, and all I heard was Iago, and I could definitely picture Iago in a Billy Mays outfit in my mind when I watched the commercial. He will be missed. Yeah, and I mean, the funny thing is that Gilbert Gottfried has also done a lot of those things where he did like mock commercials in a way. Like he did do real commercials, of course, but there were times when he also did mock commercials. Like one that I do remember, it was a little bit of a recent one. It was 50 Shades of Grey with the like an audiobook version done by Gilbert Gottfried, where he was just reading very kinky passages of 50 Shades of Grey, and it's beautiful. And it has given us the immortal line of, "Holy fuck, is this wrong? But holy hell, is it erotic?" Ah, so beautiful, man. It's just great. Let's see what other comment that we got. Like you, Matt, I was shocked that he passed away this early in his age. I've only known him for the Aladdin franchise and the Aflac commercials, and that's it. But I am sad to see him go. He may be loud and make some offensive jokes, but he was enjoyable to watch, so I'll never forget his memorable performances. Speaking of the Aflac Duck, he made a brief cameo as the Aflac Duck in Jim Carrey's A Series of Unfortunate Events, which I was surprised when I remember that moment. It's weird, but he was in there. Hey, I mean, whenever there is a Gilbert Gottfried cameo, you just take it. Be glad that it's even there and just roll with it. You know, it's kind of like Smiling Friends, where like there are some things that you would be shocked that like the amount of people that they even got there. Like, in fact, it's kind of ironic where like this, like, it turns out to be the second time that that AVGN episode was not the only time where James Rolfe and Gilbert Gottfried would appear at the same time in a scene. Like literally James Rolfe playing as Satan, and then you have Gilbert Gottfried playing as God. It's just it worked out so much better than like probably that what the creators like Zach and Michael were probably thinking about it. It worked out so beautifully. All right, I'm going to go and read one more comment before we move on from this. Honestly, I adore Gilbert Gottfried, and I still will to this day. His performance as Iago in Aladdin will always be iconic to me, and although he died a bit of an old but young age, it seems like the man lived such a wonderful life. Also, soon enough, I'm gonna memorize the "Friend Like Me" parody, and the next time I watch Aladdin with my family, I'm just gonna play it and sing it over the original as a trolling method. Oh my god. Yeah, I think like really, if you're just gonna bring it up, a lot of it is just gonna be for trolling purposes. Like seriously, I know like a lot of people really bashed that thing hard, the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management, but we need to like revive like that little clip from under new management, like with that little scene. I mean, again, it's so dumb but so enjoyable. But yeah, again, this is all to say that it's very sad and very unfortunate to see a great legend would go. And to Gilbert Gottfried, may he please rest in peace, and may we forever laugh at his jokes, and may we forever go and not be afraid to go and take risks just for the sake of a laugh. Okay, so now with that one done, let us now go into our next story. And the next story that I have here is actually going to be in relations to the new movie that has been released, Fantastic Beasts, The Secret of Dumbledore. And so far, it seems to be the new big movie that is out on the big screen right now, and some Harry Potter fans are pretty excited about it. But then again, the whole franchise in general is kind of in trouble, or there's a lot of controversy that is surrounding it. And what I want to talk about is actually an article that I've discovered throughout the week, and it was honestly very interesting to the point where I feel like I want to go and I really do want to talk about it. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it is actually regarding this one right over here. This Variety article called Fantastic Beasts, How Scandal and Controversy Have Derailed the Wizarding Franchise, written by Rebecca Rubin. And it is a great article, by the way, and I highly recommend that you go and check this one out. But basically, what this article would go and talk about, not only is it referring to the whole aspect of the current stance of the Fantastic Beasts franchise and how the Secret of Dumbledore is coming out and all that kind of stuff. Or is it The Secrets? Oh, sorry about that. I've been saying it wrong. It's actually The Secrets of Dumbledore. I don't know. Usually when there's titles that have like The Secret or The Secrets, usually that second S, like it's often there or it's often not. And sometimes it does get a little bit confusing, you know? Like you want to talk about The Secret of Nim, but then you would talk about The Secrets of Dumbledore. But anyways, as I was saying, going back into this, when it comes to Fantastic Beasts, what this article actually talks about is in regards to the controversial people that are actually attached to it, or how the Fantastic Beasts franchise is indirectly involved with the controversial people that are in there. And there are three in particular that are currently plaguing Fantastic Beasts. The first of which is Ezra Miller, who actually does play a prominent role in the feature. Now, normally he would be going out and around just to go and promote this movie, but unfortunately he couldn't do it. And that's because of the fact that a few weeks ago, he was actually arrested. I believe it was in Hawaii where he was harassing a couple, and I think he even made a death threat. But anyways, regardless of what happened, he ended up getting arrested for disorderly conduct and harassment. And this is not the first time that Ezra Miller actually did get himself in trouble, or that he even got arrested for that kind of behavior in the first place. He actually did have a little bit of a history of that. And it's actually quite problematic, especially when Warner Brothers wants him to be a prominent actor in their movies. Like, he's not just featured in the Fantastic Beasts films, but he also plays the Flash in the DC cinematic universe right now, or as it's commonly referred to nowadays, the Snyderverse. So from there, like, Warner Brothers is in a very difficult spot of what they want to do with Ezra Miller, especially with how he has been featured in many of their biggest movies, so that is causing some problems. But if that is not enough, there is also the aspect of Johnny Depp and how he has his own controversies. Like, we know about the controversies in relation to Johnny Depp and the numerous of court case battles, including the one that is happening as I'm recording this against his ex-wife Amber Heard, and how, again, Warner Brothers is indirectly being dragged into this situation, considering that they have worked or are working with both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And especially with Johnny Depp, considering that he was originally supposed to be the main villain of the entire franchise, playing as Grindelwald, but unfortunately during the filming of the third movie, he had no choice but to go and quit. That Warner Brothers, in a way, had to go and fire Johnny Depp because of the controversies that went against him. And I will go a little bit more into this later because there's definitely a lot to go and talk about. But regardless of what Ezra or what Johnny did, they are both nothing compared to who is debatably the most controversial figure of this entire thing. The most controversial person connected to Fantastic Beasts, J.K. Rowling, where in recent years, her reputation has become less and less as the beloved author of the Harry Potter books, the creator of the Wizarding World, if you will, and is now becoming more and more as a very divisible figure who is a strong and prominent advocate against trans rights, where she actually spends more time fighting against trans rights and pretty much demonizing them on social media than actually doing some legitimate work with the Harry Potter franchise or any new book that she would write or whatsoever. That seems to be what she is most known for and what's currently ruining her reputation, especially in relations to Warner Brothers, where now they are put in a very awkward position. Now, keep in mind that there is actually a point to what I'm talking about with all this. There is actually a point with how it's very troubling right now with the current position of Fantastic Beasts, with the fact that they have, they had people such as Ezra Miller, Johnny Depp, and J.K. Rowling that are attached to this. Because right now, I will say that with the Secrets of Dumbledore, enjoy it while you can, because that could actually be the last of the movies. In fact, there's this one little section here from Variety. It actually states right over here, and it also mentions about the tough situation that they're in terms of their relationship with J.K. Rowling, where it states, Warner Brothers has clearly bet big on Rowling, allowing her to stretch the flimsy source material for Fantastic Beasts into 5 films. But Rowling's repeated comments against transgender women have put the studio in a precarious situation. Condemn the literary doyen and jeopardize a billion-dollar relationship, or defend her and risk alienating fans who were already on the fence. Internally at Warner's, there's a growing sense the prequel series is no longer worth the time and treasure, given the embarrassment of needing to replace Death, the need to replace Depp, the landmines of Rowling and Miller, and the high costs associated with all things Hogwarts. And especially with The Secrets of Dumbledore, considering right now the movie is a $200 million budgeted feature, and it's going to need a lot at the box office in order for the film to actually go and turn a profit. And that's currently the situation that we are seeing right now with Fantastic Beasts. Now, a big reason why I do want to go and talk about this is because I know there are a lot of people that are major Harry Potter fans. In fact, a good amount of my friends and even some family members of mine are actually big Harry Potter fans. And seeing the current stance of how the franchise is nowadays, especially right now when this is supposed to be the 20th anniversary of the first Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone in some different countries. So it's supposed to be like a big moment in Harry Potter's history right now, but it just turned out to be very controversial. And the fact that it's attached to so many problematic people, or people who have become so problematic, it really puts it into a very awkward position. Now, I understand that there is the argument of separating the art from the artist. And honestly, I fully do support that. And this is something like what I'm doing right here. I'm not trying to discourage people from being Harry Potter fans. If you love Harry Potter, if you grew up reading the books, if you love the movies, please still do so. You do you, and whatever your relationship with Harry Potter is, you keep that with you. And if you ever need a reevaluation of that, that is all up to you. I cannot change that. All I can do is just express my opinion here. But with this whole situation, it feels like right now Harry Potter fans are kind of in a little bit of a conundrum of how they can go and separate the art from the artist, especially with J.K. Rowling constantly promoting transphobia, and even the Fantastic Beasts franchise itself. Well, let's be honest, it doesn't have a really good reputation because, even though the movies so far have been pretty successful, in terms of how fans feel about it and how critics feel about it, they're really not that great. Debatably, they are the weakest of the Harry Potter movies, especially the second one, in which that left a really bad taste, where people actually did get upset over it because, in a way, the movie is pretty much saying that, well, the wizards do have to go and make World War II happen. The wizards can't go and stop World War II. No, they need to let that thing happen. And yeah, again, that is something that really did leave a bad taste on people's mouths, and what really discouraged people from continuing watching the Fantastic Beasts series, or to start separating themselves from the Harry Potter franchise. To call that, to call their fan-like love for Harry Potter as just a phase, and just move on from that entirely. And honestly, it just really makes that a mess. And honestly, when it comes to some of the people that are attached to it, I don't blame Warner Brothers for how they're feeling right now, because a lot of it is not necessarily their fault. There are some aspects where, yeah, the way that the way they're handling it, they're kind of responsible for it, but there are some parts of it that is not really their fault. With the Johnny Depp scenario, that one, I will say it's a very complicated case. Even right now, it is still massively complicated about how Johnny Depp has been treated, and especially with how Warner Brothers is indirectly handling the situation. They can't really affect how things are on set, in court and stuff like that. They cannot be directly involved, but it's just how they're handling both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It just feels very controversial. Why would you fire Johnny Depp from being Grindelwald, but you still allow Amber Heard to be a part of Aquaman? Apparently she might also appear in Aquaman 2. Now, in that regards, it just feels very hypocritical, and it just makes Warner Brothers look bad, and it just makes the whole situation feel even more complicated. So already in that aspect, how Warner Brothers is handling it, it's just an absolute mess. And then there is the factor of Ezra Miller, who's becoming more and more unhinged and becoming more and more problematic, where he just keeps getting arrested, where he keeps presenting like this weird and bad behavior. Like, yeah, Ezra Miller has some problems, but that's up to him to go and sort things out. But right now, it's at a situation where it really is hurting Warner Brothers and hurting their bottom line, especially with this one where he got arrested at a really bad time. The fact that he's behind bars when he should be going out trying to go and promote The Secrets of Dumbledore, especially at the world premiere, which does make things extremely awkward right now, considering that it does show that there's a prominent member of the cast that is missing because, well, he was arrested because the dude went unhinged. So that's another aspect that has become very problematic. But then there is also the thing with J.K. Rowling and her transphobia. And that is the part where really that's where like Warner Brothers' relationship with the whole Harry Potter franchise, that's where it has become extremely difficult. Because right now, the Harry Potter franchise is one of Warner Brothers' biggest IPs. But the fact that the creator that they are heavily involved with and heavily attached to, you know, considering how she has equally have gone completely unhinged as much as Ezra Miller with her homophobia and her use of social media, it really does make things really complicated, not just for Warner Brothers, but also for Harry Potter fans as well, because you got to keep in mind about something with Harry Potter in general. The reason why people have connected with this franchise, why people love the books, why they love the movies so much, is because of its message of inclusivity, or how the wizarding world represents inclusivity. That someone like Harry Potter can go and be happily himself when he is at Hogwarts, and that he feels welcome, and that, you know, he could be open to just being himself. That is a dream for many marginalized people, especially for like the LGBTQ plus community, and especially for trans people, for them to go and escape to a world where they could be free to just be themselves, and their identity is not necessarily a factor that would go and hinder them. That the fact that they could go to Hogwarts and it doesn't matter if you're black, if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're Indian, or what have you. It doesn't matter who you are, because you are no different than any other wizard in there. And and it really is all about your personality and your achievements that really do define you. And that's what people love about Hogwarts and the Wizarding World and Harry Potter so much. That's the big appeal of it. But then you see J.K. Rowling that goes against that, against that inclusion theme, that she herself has become exactly like how she would portray the villains such as Voldemort and the Death Eaters and stuff like that. It really makes it so conflicting. And that's why her transphobia is making Warner Brothers lose money right now. It's at the point where right now it really is costing Warner Brothers and their bottom dollar line. And it's also affecting the franchise as well, because most, if not many fans of Harry Potter are right now contemplating about how they are going to handle their relationship with the franchise, because there are some people out there that are not as good to separate the art from the artist as much as others. And right now they're contemplating rather if they want to go and continue their love with Harry Potter, or if they can find a way to do so in a way that they won't give money to either Warner Brothers or especially towards J.K. Rowling. They want to make sure that the money that they spent won't go towards someone who will use part of that money to go and fuel this hatred towards trans people. You know, they don't want to give money, you know, like people just don't want to give money to transphobes, and they don't want to give money in order to go and promote this kind of bigoted hatred. So that's why it really is affecting Warner Brothers right now, because their attachment with J.K. Rowling, what used to be like a prominent asset, has become a massive problem. And as I'm recording this right now, there seems to be a lot of trouble with the franchise. And I think like more and more, it seems like there could be a confirmation that The Secrets of Dumbledore could be the last of the Fantastic Beasts movies, because if that movie actually does extremely well at the box office, then we will actually go and see some continuations where there will be a fourth and a fifth movie. But as of right now, the numbers are really not promising. Like, according to Box Office Mojo, apparently it's doing decently internationally with $150 million, but domestically, it only has a $43 million opening. $43 million, that's almost the same amount as Morbius, and we have already accepted that Morbius is a major failure, the biggest Marvel failure since the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. And so right here, and especially, like, you do have to consider the fact that this Fantastic Beasts movie is actually over $200 million in order to make. And a lot of that actually does have to do with all the COVID delays. And, like, I don't think this even includes the money that they spent on marketing and ads and publicity and stuff like that. So from there, it looks like there is a very solid chance that The Secrets of Dumbledore is definitely going to be losing money, and that The Secrets of Dumbledore is indeed going to be the last of the Fantastic Beasts movies. And I think at this point, with what Warner Brothers is going to do, I think right now, considering that they are under new management, considering that the merger with Warner Brothers and Discovery has become official, I think there needs to be a Harry Potter overhaul, or I think that's what they're doing right now. I mean, there has been a recent report in which they're going to be doing that with DC Entertainment, where with the new management that is at Warner Brothers Discovery, they are reevaluating how they are going to go and approach the DC properties with their movies, with their streaming service, with their shows, and all that kind of stuff. They're currently reevaluating this, and I think at this point, this pretty much 90% confirms. Like, I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like there is a very strong chance that with this announcement, this officially marks the end of the Snyderverse. Regardless of what fans may say otherwise, I think because of this, it proves that the Snyderverse is pretty much dead, especially if it means to separate itself from the problematic people. Because in a way, with the DCEU, they're pretty, like, with the DC Entertainment, they're kind of in a similar spot as the Harry Potter franchise, where they have some very troublesome people in their movies, such as Ezra Miller and Amber Heard. And especially if there's one reason why Warner Brothers would want to kill off the franchise, it's to separate themselves from the loudest, the craziest, and the most toxic fan base that's currently on the internet, to kill them off and to shut them up, to say that there will be no more Snyderverse movies, period, to go and move on from that. So I think right now that seems to be the big thing that they are doing with DC, but I think right now they should be doing the same thing with Fantastic Beasts and with Harry Potter. There needs to be this major overhaul in how they should go and reevaluate how to approach the franchise, especially when it's attached to so many controversial people, such as Ezra Miller, and then how this plays a factor in the Johnny Depp controversy, and especially with their relationship with J.K. Rowling. And that's going to be something that will be very difficult for Warner Brothers to go and approach. And just like this article mentions over here, it's not going to be easy, and there will be some major sacrifices that they will do if they side with one or if they side with the others. If they side with the fans and reject J.K. Rowling, then they might lose one of their biggest franchises. If they side with J.K. Rowling, there goes the majority of the revenue for the Harry Potter franchise. So it's going to be massively difficult. And I'm going to go and make one crazy prediction. Now, I could totally be wrong, and feel free to call me insane for this, but I do have one idea of what Warner Brothers could possibly do in order to move forward with the Harry Potter franchise, or the one thing they can do to save the Harry Potter franchise from losing money. And that is if they can buy off the entire Harry Potter franchise from J.K. Rowling. If there are people who are having a hard time to separate the art from the artist, then that's what Warner Brothers could possibly go and try to do, so that all the rights, whether it be the books, the movies, the video games, the entire franchise, all the rights will go directly to Warner Brothers in order to make sure that none of it actually goes to J.K. Rowling. I feel like that might actually be something they could do in the future. Now, this might be a plan that could be worth like literally billions of dollars, but if it's going to save the franchise in the long run, if that is going to maintain its profitability, then that could be something that Warner Brothers could actually consider to do. Again, I could totally be wrong on that. And maybe it's not the brightest idea, and maybe there is also that very strong chance that, well, J.K. Rowling is not gonna simply sell away the rights of Harry Potter and stuff like that. But I feel like that could be an option that Warner Brothers Discovery could actually consider. And that's honestly my commentary that I want to talk about with all this. I just want to go and discuss about how the Harry Potter franchise is going right now and how it is such a complete mess with all the controversial people that are attached to it, including J.K. Rowling. And now we are seeing the true consequences of how it is affecting the finances of Warner Brothers, with how it's not really going well with Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. So yeah, expecting that there could be a chance in the future that we could see more updates on this situation, but I feel like moving forward in the future, we're going to see less of Fantastic Beasts, and we're going to see more of a new overhaul plan that Warner Brothers may have in store for the Harry Potter franchise. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about the current stance of both the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, of both of these franchises? Especially if you are a Harry Potter fan, I would love to know your thoughts on this, so let me know what you all think. Okay, let's see what we got here. I've never seen any of the Fantastic Beasts movies, but I have seen all the Harry Potter movies and read the books in both Swedish and English. As a former fan, I'm really disheartened to hear of what J.K. Rowling truly believes in, as well as her beliefs shaped her stories in really bad ways, like how goblins are really anti-Semitic stereotypes. Right now, I've done my best to disengage from this franchise. I may have enjoyed the story of Harry Potter, but it's probably time to say goodbye. And that's what Warner Brothers is scared of the most, is people like King Cerulean over here that is separating themselves from the Harry Potter franchise, because especially of what J.K. Rowling has become. So that's why there needs to be a little bit of an emergency of what Warner Brothers should do in order to save Harry Potter, even if it truly means to go and separate Rowling from the franchise. Let's see. I'm actually not surprised that this happened. This is safe to say that this franchise is screwed if they keep seeing these controversial people involved and keep this franchise going. Personally, I think Warner Brothers needs to let this franchise go and just cancel the remaining movies, because this franchise is nothing but trouble right now and a giant mess. Also, I find it so hypocritical that Warner Brothers would fire Johnny Depp from Fantastic Beasts, but they are willing to keep Amber Heard for Aquaman 2. Yeah, honestly, that part right there, I just find to be so messed up. Like, I know that the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard controversy is very complex. It's not a scenario where people can say that it is fully black and white. And yeah, Johnny Depp has done some pretty stupid things in that controversy, but that doesn't mean Amber Heard is safe from this. In fact, I think we can all agree that Amber Heard is a bit more of, or debatably a lot more of a villain compared to Johnny Depp. And the fact that they cannot keep Johnny Depp, but they're perfectly fine with keeping Amber Heard, that is something that really is messed up. And it's another factor why I feel like maybe it's best for them to go and let go of the Snyderverse altogether, or to give Aquaman the same kind of reboot as the Suicide Squad. Make a movie that completely detaches itself from that worthless cinematic universe, and to go make its own movie and keep the good aspects of it. Like, keep Jason Momoa as Aquaman, but have like a completely different storyline and have a completely different setting that is separate from that Snyderverse. Honestly, I think it would be very beneficial if they would go and do that, because people are loving Jason Momoa. People are loving Jason Momoa as Aquaman, but nobody likes Amber Heard. So if you could just make if you can give Aquaman the Suicide Squad treatment, then honestly, I think that would be a wonderful idea. Let's see. What else do we have here? I'm not planning to see The Secrets of Dumbledore since I have more interesting films to see, like The Bad Guys or The Unbearable Weight of a Long-Ass Title, and its behind-the-scenes turmoil, quite frankly, unsurprising. I'm surprised the film looks as coherent as it does, and even then, it doesn't look that coherent. Also with the box office, I love how Sonic the Hedgehog really said, "Want to see me outgross a spin-off to a major movie franchise? Want to see me do it again?" With both this and Morbius. Oh yeah, Sonic 2 is an absolute powerhouse. And that's why I'm here to say, like, even though I'm not sponsored by Paramount or anything, don't go and watch Morbius, don't go and watch The Secrets of Dumbledore, watch Sonic 2. So far, that is the most fun I've ever had in watching a movie in theaters in years. So honestly, I would be completely down to reject whoever would ask me to go and watch The Secrets of Dumbledore and just watch Sonic 2 again. Okay, let's see now. God, Warner Brothers made a terrible mistake by making Fantastic Beasts a multi-film franchise. Fantastic Beasts 1 was a fine film. It was fun. The more I hear about Fantastic Beasts 2, the more I don't want to watch it because it sounds like a confusing and complicated mess. But then there are the behind the scenes that only hasten the franchise's death. Lord, they should have made this a 6-film series. Maybe not now, just 3. They should have just done standalone movies so that they can avoid crap that movie series have. Yeah, it's just at the point that it really shows that Warner Brothers seems like they're having a pretty difficult time trying to create franchises or like franchises within movies. They can't really go and make cinematic universes because it always falls down and really screws over everything. Like, they want to try to do a cinematic universe with DC, well, it turned out to be a disaster. They want to try to go and make a cinematic universe with the Lego movie, well, that didn't work out, and the Lego franchise just moved on to Universal. They want to go and try to do a whole cinematic universe with Harry Potter, well, that really screwed up badly because of too many messed up people that are involved. Alright, I'm gonna go and read one more comment before we move on to our next story. I have a good feeling that Fantastic Beasts 3 could be the last if Warner Brothers decided to end it. I enjoyed all 8 Harry Potter films, including the first Fantastic Beasts film, but with how it has gotten worse for both the second and third films, and controversies for Rowling, Depp, and Miller have become, it pretty much destroyed a once-beloved franchise. Since Warner Brothers is now owned by Discovery, I don't think David Zaslav and Discovery could do much to save it unless they reboot everything. For now, it's dead. Yeah, that's why I said that right now Warner Brothers should seriously reevaluate what they should do with the Wizarding World, similar to what they're doing right now with the overhaul at DC Entertainment. They gotta do something to completely reboot it because the current stance of the Wizarding World is completely unappealing, it's completely ugly, and it's also hate-filled, where a lot of the money that it gets, it ends up going towards, like, bigoted and hate-filled movements in order to go and attack marginalized groups of people such as trans people. So that's really the situation that Warner Brothers needs to figure out. They need an absolute reboot of the current stance of the Harry Potter franchise, and probably one that should not involve J.K. Rowling, because if not, well, there goes a multi-billion-dollar franchise that Warner Brothers own. What a way to start the merger of Warner Brothers and Discovery. Okay, well, moving on to the next story, I just want to apologize right now, because with this one, yeah, you guys are gonna get angry. This is something that honestly is inevitable that it's going to happen. Like, we know that, like, we would joke around that this thing would actually go and exist, but yeah, it's happening right now, sadly. Because you're not just gonna get one, you guys are gonna get a whole trilogy of NFT movies. Yes, I kid you not, there is legit going to be a Bored Ape Yacht Club film trilogy. And from the looks of things, yeah, it's gonna be an animated trilogy. Yep, that seems to be the thing. Now, the story with this is that Coinbase, one of the biggest companies that specializes in NFTs, have actually announced that they are going to make not one, but 3 movies that are all going to be part of a trilogy that are entirely based on NFTs. Specifically, one of their most prominent NFT groups, the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And apparently this trilogy is actually going to be called not the NFT trilogy, not the Bored Ape Yacht Club trilogy, not the Bored Ape trilogy, but the Degen trilogy. I think that's how you pronounce it, but yeah, for now we're just going to go and call it Degen. And I think Degen might be short for degenerate because listen to the definition. Like just reading from my source here on CNET, it states, the film series produced by Coinbase is being called the Degen trilogy. In crypto parlance, a degen is a common and often affectionate term used to describe someone who buys coins or NFTs without doing any meaningful research into what they're actually buying. The first part of this trilogy will debut at NFT NYC, a convention focused on the non-fungible tokens that takes place in New York every year between June 20th and June 23rd. We even got a comment from Coinbase in regards to this trilogy, in which they state, in regards to the people who are working on this, we have an incredible group of directors, writers, and animators behind this film. We can't tell you who they are just yet, but you've seen what they've done before. So we don't know who these people are, but apparently they got some familiar names in terms of directors, writers, and animators. Who we are, we don't know, but apparently we have seen their works. I don't know. Maybe they got a big name studio. Maybe they got Sony Animation involved with Lord and Miller directing one of these movies. That could be the case, but they're not really saying anything right now. And no, I'm not saying that either Sony Animation or Lord and Miller supports NFTs. I'm just putting out some kind of ridiculous example. I just want to go and put that out there. But yeah, that seems to be the big thing. And also, they have mentioned that with this film trilogy, it's going to be extremely interactive for people who are a part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. In fact, they even mentioned that for those people who would love to see their NFT be in the movie, it actually states at this part that owners of Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs will be able to auction their apes to be in the series. Each Bored Ape NFT features different traits and accessories, and Coinbase is asking owners to create a backstory for their character to potentially appear in the films. If chosen, the owner of that NFT will receive a $10,000 licensing fee paid in Bitcoin or Yuga Labs' own ApeCoin. Though Yuga Labs own the Bored Ape Yacht Club brand, holders of the NFTs have licensing rights to for the specific ape they own. This has led to holders being a band and the authoring of a Bored Ape book by Neil Strauss. And from what I've heard, apparently, I could be wrong on this, but apparently with this one, with the NFT trilogy, like if you want to go and audition your ape in order to be in this, then it does come with a fee. Or like with this, like technically buying an ape right now, apparently like to buy a drawing of a monkey in the Bored Ape Yacht Club, apparently it's like literally hundreds of thousands, like apparently around $300,000 each. So yeah, that seems to be the big thing right now, is that the Bored Ape Yacht Club is now having a film trilogy, or we are legit getting an animated NFT trilogy. Oh boy. Now, you guys probably know that I've already talked about NFTs in the past. I have already discussed about like the problems with NFTs, the complexities of what they even are in the first place, and how it's probably best to not spend your money on these things, because we know that inevitably the whole fad is going to die out, and whoever would go and invest in NFTs, they will inevitably just become poor for the rest of their lives. In fact, in 2022, it's actually very interesting to see the fate of NFTs because their popularity took a significant dip. like the cost of Ethereum and other cryptocurrency, like it has significantly dropped ever since 2021. Like you could tell that their popularity is not as prominent as what they used to be. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just gotta say that I felt like it's very suspicious that the value of NFTs in general have significantly dropped right when the whole war that Russia put out against Ukraine has actually started. That I feel like it just seems a little too suspicious that those two events actually did happen at the same time. And then, of course, there is the famous video, and maybe there is a chance you guys have seen it. I would like to ask the chat wall, have you guys seen the video called Line Goes Up? Now, for those of you who haven't seen the video Line Goes Up, it is actually a video made by Dan Olson. It is 2 hours long, but it is a phenomenal video, and I highly recommend that you guys go and watch it because it's actually a full video explaining what NFTs are, their history, and how they are all just poorly executed scams. So, again, if you guys want to truly know what NFTs are, I highly recommend you go and see that video. Again, it is called Line Goes Up. I think there's also the added title of the problem with NFTs, but again, still worth seeing, and it is pretty complex in itself. It's probably like it does require a bit like a few more watches, like several watches in order to fully comprehend, because again, NFTs are a very complicated subject, but I will say that it very much is worth it. But with that video, the point that I'm trying to make is that when the video was released, that actually started a trend where NFTs became increasingly unpopular because there was that one person that did all the research to properly call out NFTs as scams. And from there, NFTs became less and less and less popular. I mean, they're still technically popular now, but at this point, they're certainly not what they used to be. And we are seeing the whole popularity just die out. In fact, let me show you something absolutely hilarious. It's coincidental, but it is so funny because the thing is with this article about the Bored Ape Yacht Club film trilogy, if you scroll down, you look underneath what the next article is, it actually talks about how there is this one NFT that is just an absolute bomb and has no value whatsoever. Now, the story goes with this one is that there's apparently this one guy who actually spent $2.9 million, nearly $3 million on an NFT that is Jack Dorsey's first tweet. It's an NFT of the first tweet that was ever created. And the guy was actually looking for $50 million for that NFT, but he can only get, and I kid you not, $280. Not 280,000, not 280 million, just $280. That's it. Imagine, like seriously, imagine spending $2.9 million and the only thing you get back from it is $280. Like, oh my God, this has got to be one of the biggest L's of 2022. And this is like the biggest, like this has to be like the biggest proof of why you should not go and invest in NFTs. Like, seriously, honestly, I just realized like I do have my like soundboard here. Like, honestly, like, I just need to repeat the fact that a guy unironically spent $2.9 million on an NFT and ends up getting $280 in return. The best response that you could have for that moment. And like the point that I'm trying to make is that it's ironic that you got this article just underneath the subject that I want to talk about, which is in regards to the fact that they are doing this entire film trilogy based on the Bored Ape Yacht Club and NFTs and all that kind of stuff. But I'll be very honest, with this entire thing going on, with this with this entire NFT movie, and especially the fact that it's the first part of it is apparently coming out very, very soon. Like, apparently it's going to be in June, that they're going to be releasing the thing in just 2 months, which is honestly very unexpected, but it did get me thinking. Like, it did make me realize about what the whole point of NFTs are. I know a lot of people are saying that it's absolutely worthless. There's no reason why people would get NFTs, but I do realize, like, suddenly from this article, I get why people would collect NFTs. It's not a good reason, but there is a reason. NFTs, the sole purpose of it, it's to flaunt wealth. That's all it is. The reason why they're buying these Bored Apes, the reason why they're collecting all these NFTs and stuff like that, it's to go and flaunt wealth. That's why they have it. That's why you see all these celebrities like Eminem and Gwyneth Paltrow and Jimmy Fallon all having their NFTs and just showing off to everyone. It's because it is a way to go and flaunt off their money. Like, you've probably seen like how people would go and flaunt off their money by buying like these massive houses or like these lavishly expensive cars and stuff like that. But in the age of the internet, or in this new digital age, this is the new way of how they can go and flaunt off their money. And when you do think about all the other NFT related projects, especially like all the different cartoons, such as the Red Ape Show, or whatever Tara Strong is doing, or like that, or this new NFT project that apparently is the only thing that Vic Mignogna is able to go and work on because of like how bad his reputation and how toxic his fan base has become. Like, it's pretty much at the point that when it comes to NFTs, like, the only reason why these projects exist, they're not made for mainstream audiences. They're not made for people like you and me. It's only a thing that is amongst each other. They would go and create these NFTs, like these NFT cartoons and these NFT projects, in order to go and flaunt off how great they are. Oh, look how rich I am. Oh, look at my Bored Ape and how it's prominently featured in this project, whether it be for Red Ape or for this D-Gen trilogy or whatever. It's mostly for those people. It's not made for you and me, because if this is actually like a big mainstream project that would be released in theaters worldwide, we would be hearing this for like a while. But the fact that it is actually done by this company, you know, the fact that it is actually made, like, actually going to be released in June, that it's going to be released so soon, and that the announcement is only done today, honestly, there's no purpose of it. It's only going to be made for those people. And I'm not, honestly, for me personally, I'm not really that interested, because you know the purpose of this is to go and like boost the ego of people who invest in NFTs and like try to feed them with so much coping, you know, with so much cope to say that, oh, NFTs are worthwhile. NFTs make you feel rich. You're more better than the normies. You're part of the awesome elite. And that because you're with the elite, that means you can rub shoulders with celebrities like Jimmy Fallon and Snoop Dogg. You would be cool. You're better than others if you own a Bored Ape and all that kind of crap. I have no time for this absolute garbage. And chances are, I don't think there is going to be a way for me or for anyone to go and watch it unless they are part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And honestly, it just makes it feel it's just ridiculous. I don't see this like being appealing towards anyone else, and especially with the fact that how NFTs right now are becoming increasingly unpopular. There's just no value for this. Like, really, all this movie is going to do is just be a time capsule. It's just going to highlight this small moment in history when people were freaking out about this pointless fad that people expect to be rich out of it. Like, that's the whole thing, is that it's a time capsule to highlight a get-rich-quick scheme that didn't necessarily work as well. Like, I know, as I said before, I am aware that it is still pretty popular right now, but yeah, I don't see much appeal for anyone outside of the NFT community to go and check this movie out. It's just worthless. Again, Like, honestly, again, I highly recommend you go and check out the Dan Olson documentary, Line Goes Up, instead of just watching this. At least that way you'll have more of an educated understanding of what NFTs are and why stuff like this are nothing more but a waste of time. Okay. Now, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall and I would like to ask your thoughts in regards to this Bored Ape Yacht Club film trilogy. Would you be interested in checking it out? Are you guys distancing yourself from it? What's like by any means necessary? Let me know what you think. Let's see now. I can't believe we live in a society where we can't even get a sequel to films like Megamind, The Adventures of Tintin, and Rise of the Guardians, but NFTs get a full-on trilogy. I mean, I thought we all agreed that NFTs are nothing more than a Ponzi scheme in order to swindle bucks and speed up global warming. So yeah, I'm not gonna watch it. Why would I? Also, that Jack Dorsey thing, making your first tweet an NFT thinking it'll be a major success, you fool! Actually, I will say that I think Jack Dorsey really did gain from this. Like I think it is like Jack Dorsey himself who actually did create the NFT. Like for him, it was a major win because he actually got $2.9 million on that NFT. It's just the idiot who spent $2.9 million on that NFT. He's the one taking the major L, who literally spent millions of dollars over a JPEG image. Like literally something that is nothing more but a JPEG image. Let's see now. First an NFT cartoon decided to make fun of Saberspark, and now we have this. Do I really have to say anything about this? NFTs are bad. People who buys and take part of NFTs of the NFT fad are stupid. We all know this by now. The only thing I have to say about this is insert J. Jonah Jameson laugh here. Yeah, and I think like with the Red Ape family, like if you have seen it, that is also another prominent example of how NFTs are really nothing more but just products that are made exclusively for the NFT community. It's not made for people like that are you and me that don't really know a whole lot about NFTs in the first place. Like if you don't have that much knowledge, like you'll be left even more confused if you watch stuff like the D-Gen trilogy or the Red Ape family. Like the only thing that you can do is just like actually go and educate yourself. And if you do educate yourself, well then you're not really going to go and make much money. In fact, it's kind of ironic that they would that they would call this trilogy the D-Gen trilogy, because I would argue that if you get involved with NFTs, you are a D-Gen, because people who are educated of what NFTs are, they wouldn't invest in NFTs. So I'm just saying that, like, honestly, you already lost if you got yourself involved in cryptocurrency. Like, you might as well just say that you are poor immediately, because whatever hopes and aspirations of you getting rich by this, they are dead. Let's see now. It shocks me that people still shock me how NFTs are still a thing. Not just because it's a bad investment, but how they supposedly harm the ozone layer. Plus the fact that NFT artists will straight up steal fan art to turn into tokens, or when NFT investors went as far as to hack Nathaniel Brandy's YouTube account. I pray for the day people finally realize that NFT markets are just not worth it. Well, I mean, let's be honest, it's just gonna slowly but surely happen. We are seeing it right now where the price of Ethereum and Bitcoin and all forms of different cryptocurrencies and NFTs, they are losing so much value in general. So we are going to see the NFTs popularity just dwindle down, and it'll be at the point that there's no reason to go and talk about it, and the value of like the Bored Apes and stuff like that, well, they will go down to the levels of being worth in cents. Like you could buy it for like a quarter. I wouldn't be surprised if that could actually happen in the future. Let's see, what else do we have here? What other comments? This just sounds like it's going to be a massive disaster. I've said this before and I'll say it again. NFTs are literally nothing but scams. The last thing we need is movies that are related to NFTs. Also, this may be controversial, but I really do think that NFTs at this point have become just discriminations from real-life issues that we need to focus on. Millions of dollars should be spent on helping people in Ukraine, not for a godforsaken NFT. I'm sorry, but that really does piss me off. Yeah, there have been times with NFTs, they can be completely tasteless. Like, there have been times when they would make NFTs of recently dead people. Like, no joke, I've seen like people trying to make NFTs or NFT franchises off of George Floyd or Etika. Like, I know, it is as disgusting as it sounds. All right, I'm gonna go and read you one more comment before we move on to our grand finale. Let's see here. Remember all those animated movies from the 2010s that tried desperately to cash in on the Lego movie? This idea feels like it's trying to cash in on those failed cash-ins. This is one movie I hope never see the light of day. Otherwise, prepare for an AniMat's score most likely lower than the Emoji Movie, as well as a possible makeover design for the AniMat's seal of garbage. Yeah, I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. I don't think I'll be able to get my hands on this NFT trilogy. I don't think I'll be able to review it because, again, this is something that feels like it's just going to be made for those NFT fanboys, and it will only be seen by those NFT fanboys, because if they're expecting to be as big as Disney with this, they really are fooling themselves. Just like how every NFT investor is fooling themselves thinking that they could be rich off of this. So yeah, it's a really stupid thing that is happening right now, but apparently it's making its rounds in the news, so it's worth mentioning. All right, everyone, this is it. We are at the grand finale, and this one right over here, oh, this one. Now, normally, this would not be something that I would go and talk about, but considering the viral nature of it, how it became like a massive highlight of 2022 internet culture, it's just something that I just need to go and discuss, especially with the updated events of how it's going. Like, I'll say, like, I'll be repeating this, but this is a situation that it went from being ridiculously comical to tragically frightening. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, then may I present to you what could possibly be the worst take on Turning Red. So let's play this.
This film takes place less than a year after the September 11th terrorist attacks. I bring this up because it radically altered the culture of the time, in ways that make this movie feel exceptionally ignorant of the time. Even though, literally, the only reason I can comprehend that this movie is set explicitly in 2002 is because the director grew up in that exact year. Yes, this film takes place in Canada, not the United States, but all over the Western world. Canada, America, the UK, much of Europe. People were paranoid because 9/11 wasn't the only terror attack that had happened. It was the major theme of the decade. I mean, I can understand not wanting everyone to be so fearful, as that goes against the tone that the movie is trying to establish. But then you have very awkward moments if you actually were there and you do actually remember the time period. This film takes place less than a year.
Yes, folks! That little clip actually comes from the review done by none other than the mysterious Mr. Enter. And this was a take that was shared primarily on Twitter, and the original tweet that did share this, oh, it went viral. Where as I am recording this right now, that clip that you have seen has gathered so far over 8.2 million views, and the tweet itself has collected a total of over 13.5 thousand retweets and quote tweets and over 85,000 likes. 9/11, eh? Let me ask you people, have you ever watched an animated movie? You know, you seem comfortable with it, you seem fine, but you're often a little bit disturbed. You feel like there's just something wrong, that there's something that is obviously missing in your animated film. Have you ever just sit back and you wonder to yourself, you know what this cartoon is missing? 9/11. We need more 9/11 in this family-friendly animated feature. Oh boy. And I will say, like, I know some people might say, like, oh, well, this thing right here is just taken out of context and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'm just going to tell you right now that the review itself, it's really no better. Like, it is equally as cringy as the clip that you have seen here. In fact, like, the entire point that Mr. Enter is literally trying to make with his thoughts on Turning Red by, in which he calls it a mixed bag, by the way, he actually did go in, like, the satirically hilarious, like, in the satirically stupid take of how the cartoons that he grew up with are much better than something like this that is released right now. Like, he's going in that old shtick right over there. And one thing I need to say, like, especially with the comment of the fact that there is no 9/11 reference on Turning Red because of the fact that it is released in 2002, I'm just there like, really? Like, among all the takes out there, your biggest problem is the fact that there's no 9/11 in Turning Red? Like, honestly, there might be some people that might say, like, they could see how, like, what he's going with it because of the whole aspect that it is set in 2002. But no, like, in truth, it just makes no sense whatsoever. Why would there be 9/11 in a Pixar animated film like this? It just makes no sense. Like, you know, you claim that others don't seem to comprehend the time that this movie is set in, but I need to ask you, do you know, like, do you understand, like, how it is, like, to be a kid back during that time, like, in the beginning of the 2000s decade? Because clearly with this, you don't seem to have a comprehension. Because it really does feel like he's trying to make a point that sounds like it's smart, but it really doesn't, and he's literally saying nothing about it. It's like he's trying to force a negative opinion towards the movie when he doesn't have one in particular. It's almost like he's making something up on the fly. And it's kind of funny because you'd think you have already heard the worst of the worst when it comes to the takes against Turning Red. Like, we all know those infamous takes from anti-woke people in which they pretty much commented against how there's so much diversity on it, and especially with the fact that it does star an Asian woman, and also the fact that it does discuss about puberty and all that kind of idiotic stuff. In fact, like, we probably do remember the infamous Cinema Blend review in which the guy says that he's incapable of relating with what's going on in the film because of the fact that the movie stars teenage girls and the fact that the protagonist is an Asian teenage girl. Now, that dude got a whole lot of flack, but somehow Mr. Enter found a way to make this so much worse. Like, he really had a hold my beer moment and decided, you know what? Let's go with 9/11. Why not bring in 9/11 in this whole discussion when no one else has ever brought up 9/11 in regards to Turning Red? Like, I'm just warning you right now, folks, whatever you do, do not, and I repeat, do not mention to Mr. Enter that the Incredibles movies are actually set in the 1960s. Because if you do, he's going to flip his lid and be like, what? What do you mean? Hold on a sec. What do you mean that the Incredibles are based on the 1960s? If they are set in the 1960s, why did nobody talk about the JFK assassination? Shouldn't we have a moment where Mr. Incredible or Helen Parr are reacting to the horrible events of the JFK assassination? Shouldn't they be talking about how their society has been massively affected by JFK's death? Why couldn't they do that? And don't even get me started on Frozone. Why is Frozone not talking about the civil rights movement, or why does he not have a 10-minute dialogue about Martin Luther King Jr.? The fact that he is a black man in the 1960s is already an issue right over there. That is why the Incredibles movies are a massive mixed bag. Oh boy, and especially with this right over here. Like, even though, like, just this tweet alone already explains so much that the entire, like, whatever thoughts that Mr. Enter may have on Turning Red, like, it's already shot down, and the arguments that he may have against it's already defeated. And by the way, shout out to Coco Fox 023 for making this tweet, for like discovering this clip and just really making it viral for the internet to take notice on this. And one thing that I do want to go and clarify, by the way, like, whatever opinion Mr. Enter may have on Turning Red, that's perfectly fine. Like, I'm not bashing him because I like Turning Red and he doesn't, so I'm making fun of him. I'm not doing that at all. If he doesn't like Turning Red, if he thought that it's a mixed bag, that's perfectly okay. It's just his explanation to the flaws, like his takes on why there are some problems with Turning Red in the first place. That is the thing that me and the entire internet is just making fun of, and that it is absolutely ridiculous. And also, the factor of the whole 9/11 thing, it really does make no sense, and it really is unnecessary to go and talk about, because let me go and explain you this. I am a kid that actually did grow up in the 9/11 time. Like I was around, like, I will say that I was around 8. I was going to be 9 years old when 9/11 actually did happen. And on top of that, I am a Canadian, just like May. So I do have that bonus as well. And one thing that I could tell you, yes, like, even in Canada, the events of 9/11 was indeed shocking. It was, in fact, pretty shocking for both me and my family. I remember that we were, like, me and my family were actually quite concerned about the events, mainly because I actually had an uncle that worked in New York City. And keep in mind, like, his offices were actually very far from the World Trade Center, but we were still massively concerned, because when we heard that there was this terrorist attack that did happen in New York City, our minds immediately go to, oh crap, is our uncle okay? So that was like a high, like, is my uncle okay? So that was like a high priority that we had. But then following afterwards, going from 2002 onward, like, as a kid, 9/11, like, was not in my mind all the time. Like, yeah, when we would talk about, like, travel and going on vacations, like, I remember, like, on March of 2002, we actually went on a trip to Disney World. And yeah, like, the 9/11 was a little bit of a factor and a little bit of a worry, but it didn't stop us from actually going to Disney World. And as a kid, like, I wasn't always thinking about 9/11 or noticing all the different things that, like, happen all, like, around me because of 9/11. Like, I was a kid. I was still thinking about stuff like Pokemon and Digimon and schoolwork and stuff like that. Even for kids who would become teenagers, like, even for like 12 and 13-year-olds at that time, they wouldn't always be thinking about 9/11. They would be thinking about, like, what they present here in Turning Red. They would think about boys. They would think about like bands. They would think about music. They would think about schoolwork and all that kind of stuff. Like, we were still able to move on with our lives, even if 9/11 actually did happen. Like, we're not constantly, like, we were not in a position where we would constantly live in fear and always, like, be worried about, like, what would be the next terrorist attack and stuff like that, because for us, we would just go and continue our lives and do what we can, like, and mainly because of the fact that we are kids. And in the case of Turning Red, this whole movie is from the perspective of Mei Lee. This is technically her movie, and so we are seeing all this from her perspective. And with Mei Lee, like, maybe in the film, like, she was aware, and, like, her whole family was aware that 9/11 did happen. But the thing is that the movie is structured in a way that 9/11 is not necessarily needed, because this is not a movie that discusses about terrorist attacks. This is not a movie that discusses about things like 9/11. This is not a movie about immigration. Like, none of the themes that correlate to 9/11 correlate to Turning Red. So there's no need to go and discuss about 9/11, because this is about Mei Lee. This is about her turning into a giant fluffy red panda that is symbolism for puberty. The thing is with Turning Red is that this movie actually has more of a priority to discuss about other subjects than 9/11. And that's the big reason why the 9/11 take is objectively bad and that it doesn't work, because the movie is not about 9/11. There's no need to bring up 9/11. And even in places like Toronto, Canada, like the whole cultural impact of 9/11 did not affect it severely as much as Mr. Enter may possibly think. So there's no purpose to bring up 9/11 or to talk about 9/11 when discussing about Turning Red. And that's why it's been called out by the entire internet as the worst take on Turning Red that you could ever find on the internet, and why people right now are actually making a whole bunch of memes based on like Mei Lee and 9/11. Like there are some that I've seen on Twitter that they're actually pretty funny. Like one example is actually a clip taken from the teaser trailer where you see Mei Lee running to her home, and there's that slow motion jump that she would do where she jumps over James Wan's character, and you see like she's jumping towards the World Trade Center. Or there's actually another one that's also really funny, and like you see May, she's crying, and you hear audio from Psychic Pebbles from one of the Oni Plays audio clips where he's just like turn on the TV, they hit the Pentagon, they hit the fucking Pentagon. It's absolutely hilarious. Like if there is one positive thing that did come out from all this is just the memes of like connecting Turning Red with 9/11. Like somehow the 9/11 jokes have been revived all because of Mr. Enter. Oh boy. But all jokes aside though, Mr. Enter did actually respond to the whole situation. Like he was actually aware of what had all happened. And I can imagine that, like, it is I can imagine for Mr. Enter, it was quite painful to watch, because honestly, I know personally what it's like to be like the clown of the day for the entirety of Twitter and on social media in general. It really is not fun, especially when you would be made fun of and people that you look up to, like now it seems like they hate you and spite you because of that stupid thing. Like I've been there once. Like someone did share like a clip from my Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs review, and like it was heavily panned across the entire across Twitter, and especially with the animation community, and it was not a fun experience to go through, which is why to this day I do everything I can in order to go and improve myself from my shortcomings, that I do all the effort that I can to improve myself, to make myself better than how I was when I used to rant about Sony animation all the time, and to go and like set my biases aside in order to improve my reviews. And hopefully with the recent Sony animation reviews that I've done, whether they be for Vivo or Mitchell's, or even not too long ago with the Hotel Transylvania Transformation Mania review, that I have proven that I have evolved and that I'm no longer that cringy reviewer that I was before. So I can understand with Mr. Enter that it's not fun to go through, and hopefully maybe with this, like it could be something for him to be like a learning curve for him to learn to go and improve himself and to be back to that Mr. Enter that people actually enjoyed. Sadly, that is not the case though, because he did respond with a Twitter thread, and again, this is where things go from this is where things actually go from ridiculously comical to tragically frightening, because he did put out this massive thread on Twitter, and this is something that it just makes things so much worse. Like, it just made things so much terrible for him, and it really made Mr. Enter become like the bad guy. I know some people are making, like, a lot of people are mentioning like other controversial people such as Misanthropony and Lily Orchard. Well, this is something like this thread alone has already put Mr. Enter equally towards those people, or makes him even worse than them, because to take a listen. And by the way, I will put out my commentary like after some of these tweets because there's so much to unpack here. So let's go with the first one. Good to know that after a career of insulting people, getting things blatantly untrue, going into anti-mask rants, this is your moral line. This is the moment where you said too far when I thought that a mediocre movie didn't properly represent its stated year. Okay, well, right over here already you got some massive problems. Like, already there are so much issues. Like, number one, the fact that it is a blatant lie when he stated that apparently people gave him a pass when he was insulting people, spreading misinformation, and going on anti-mask rants. Okay, at that point, nobody gave you a pass on that, dude. Like, just because you didn't get fully canceled, that doesn't mean that people were okay with the things that you have done. You were massively called out when you were insulting animators and people working in the industry and pretty much developing hate campaigns against them. Like when you spreaded misinformation and stated false facts, like you were called out against that, especially like in your Nicorama review, where you said things that were completely untrue for the purpose of talking down against the cartoon that you were talking about. And my God, the freaking anti-mask rants. Like, you were going absolutely insane with those things. I am shocked that anybody could think that you can be taken seriously after those. Like, you got severely called out for those things. Like, isn't that one of the major reasons why you had to go and delete your DeviantArt account and even delete your old Twitter account? Like, I know this one is not your first, dude. And number three, and probably the biggest thing, considering that this is supposed to be the one that's supposed to start this entire thread, the fact that, like, the whole point that you're trying to make, like, honestly, it's just making you look, it's just making you look so much worse here. The fact that you're saying that, like, oh, well, like, you're the problem here because you're saying that my comment on turning red is too far when I used to be an asshole previously with my things like insulting people, getting things blatantly untrue, and going into an anti-mask rant. That seems to be the point that you want to try to go and make. That apparently that the people criticizing you are the problem because apparently this is the thing that they won't let you get away with when in previous times you've been a major douchebag. I don't think the fact that you bring up the other times when you were a dick, it's not helping out your case. You're just making things so much worse and really emphasizing the fact that you are a horrible person and that you have never grown from all that. The fact that you still remain as the same douchebag that would still go and attack animators just for doing their jobs and try to develop hate campaigns so that your fans can go and attack them on social media and send death threats and all that kind of stuff. Like, already that is a major problem, the fact that you're starting with this. But this is just the start of it. There's still so much more that we need to go through. Like, let's move on now. Keep fighting the good fight. Even if you have to take things out of context, you look phenomenal doing so. And I'm sure Disney knows that they've got loyal customers that will ignore them working in despotic governments that they sell your values back to you. Okay, I freaking hate this mentality. My God. Like, I still can't believe that people still think that way. And the way that Mr. Enter is using it right here, I just need to say it. Like, fuck you, John. Like, what? Like, seriously, fuck you for even trying to say this. Like, it's so stupid that there are some people out there that have this mentality that if you're going to be against Disney, you must be against everything against Disney. You're not allowed to like anything that Disney has done. You're not allowed to love any of the products that they have made. You're not allowed to buy anything from them. You're not allowed, like, if you enjoy at least one of their movies, you're not allowed to criticize them whatsoever. Like, if you enjoy, like, apparently some people think if you like Turning Red and Encanto, then you're not in a position to criticize Disney for how they've been handling the Don't Say Gay bill controversy. Like, that has actually happened to me, where you know me, I have openly called out Disney for the terrible ways that they have been handling the Don't Say Gay bill controversy, and I've actually had a few people, like, try to say, like, aren't you still a Disney shrill? Didn't you give Turning Red and Encanto a positive review? Like, honestly, like, eat a freaking bag of dicks if you have that simple-minded mentality. And especially with Mr. Enter, the way that he's framing it here, he's pretty much saying that, oh, well, if you don't agree with me, well, that makes you a Disney shrill. That makes you a Disney slave, that you rather defend a Disney product than defend me. Like, seriously, fuck you, John. All right, let's go and move on to the other comments in this thread here. Let's see. In a way, it's really satisfying to piss off Twitter. Why? Because the shits I had to deal with on actual hate forums are less toxic and pathetic than the community here. Good luck with that Elon Musk buyout. I hear you guys loved him too when he stood for the right things. Remember when you guys loved J.K. Rowling for queer baiting? Only ever saying that her characters were LGBT after the fact? I could go on and on. The names change, but the stories are always the same. It gets fucking old, and people in general are getting tired of your existence. Okay, wow, what a coincidence that we're bringing back J.K. Rowling in this, but I just gotta ask, what the fridge does J.K. Rowling have to do with anything that you're talking about here? I mean, then again, we could say that it is Mr. Enter. This is the same guy who just randomly brings in 9/11 when he talks about Turning Red for no reason whatsoever. And it's the same thing here. Like, what point are you even trying to make with the whole J.K. Rowling thing? It makes no sense to this entire argument that you're even talking about. And do you really think that bringing her up is going to make you better? Like, no, it just makes no sense here. Anyways, let's move on. I pity those of you who live your life on this cesspool of a platform. It's dying, and it's been for a long time. The brief boost of relevance it got due to the pandemic is over, and those fake Twitter points you've been hunting for will vanish like any shits I have left to give. Say what you want about my videos, I literally don't care. I lost too much over the past couple of years due to real problems to give shit about, and petty internet teehees. About petty internet teehees. Whatever happens today, I'm still going to make content, and I'm still going to live my best. Holy crap, dude. Like, the amount of cope in here, this is desperate. Like, seriously, if you don't, like, he keeps on saying that he doesn't care, that he doesn't give a shit whatsoever, and yet all I see is nothing but cope and cope and cope and cope. Like, really, he's at a, like, let me ask you this, John. If you don't care about what's been happening on Twitter, then why are you making this long thread in the first place? Like, why even make a thread this long if you state that you don't care? Like, really, what you're saying here, it really feels like you're saying, I don't care, I don't give a shit. Who cares about Twitter? It's dying anyways. No one gives a crap. You're all gonna forget about it. I don't care about it. I pity those who care about it, because I have a life. I have actual crap. I have actual things to care about that actually do matter. Unlike things that happen here on Twitter. Twitter is stupid. I don't freaking care. I don't care at all. You guys are meaningless. You guys are stupid for still being on Twitter. You know, like, this is nothing but just desperate freaking cope, man. And I'm gonna say this right now. You care. You absolutely do care, man. Oh, boy. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, okay, let's continue now. I turned off the comments on that video, but maybe I shouldn't have. If being part of a Twitter brigade is the only thing that can brighten a sad, miserable life, for a brief bit of sadistic joy, who am I to take that from you? Could the point be worded better? Does it matter? You turned off the comments, and sadly, yes, this is actually true. Let me go and quickly look this up, actually. I should have had this prepared a little bit, but yes, it is actually true that Mr. Enter did end up taking down the... He did take down the comments section of his review. Let me just go and try to find that. Yes, this infamous review.
Still haven't started your
right
Shopify store?
over here. And let me just show you this, just to go and properly frame this for you. So let me just go and quickly shrink that. Hold on a sec. Just give me some time. I'm using I'm using Google Chrome for this. I want to show you with my account so that I could show with the amount of dislikes that it actually gotten. So Turning Red is a mixed bag by the mysterious Mr. Enter. And as you can see, well, with the dislikes, 2.1 likes towards compared to 8.7 thousand dislikes. And yes, as you can see here, he did end up turning off the comments, which a pretty bad move right there, man. Like again, this show, like, this is not a good way to go and respond to criticism, because really, like, the fact that you got to take away, like, in a way you are taking away people's freedom of speech when turning off the comments immediately, and the fact that you're turning them off to try to silence your critics, it really is a bad look for you. I'm even surprised you're even showing, like, the likes and dislikes on this whole thing. I'm surprised you didn't even shut this one down either. Because the thing is that, like, if you claim to not even care, then you wouldn't have cared enough to go and turn off the comment section. So that's something I just want to go and immediately show. Anyways, where are we in all this? Yeah. If it wasn't for that, we'd be making this about the diversity talk. The fact that we're not talking about that is how I know most of these people didn't watch the full video. Justifying yourself to people who won't listen is pointless. Well, that's the thing. People have actually seen the review, John, and that's why they're calling you out. And even without the whole aspect of, like, 9/11, it is still a terrible review because your takes about it don't make sense and they're absolutely weak. Because your overall comments on the Turning Red review, like, yeah, there are some things that you did like about it, but your criticisms against it, they are weak and they are pointless, because you're literally saying that the cartoons you grew up with are not as good as Turning Red. That's the whole point you're trying to make, and that's why that review has been known to be infamously weak. Like, even, like, we wouldn't, yeah, like, maybe we would talk about the diversity talk if we're not talking about the 9/11 aspect of it, but you would still get the same amount of backlash regardless, because it is still a terrible take. Then let's move on, because there is still more, believe it or not. He says, and hey, maybe when I review Mulan 2020, She-Ra, High Guardian Spice, and Masters of the Universe, I'll hit trending again. I mean, if you guys really want me to, if you guys really want me to make me successful, hint for upcoming projects, by the way, I'm not going to shut up despite my own good. Oh boy, yeah, that's also I'm gonna get more into that later. There's a lot to discuss. Rule of thumb. If you piss Twitter off, you're probably doing something good. Once again, after a career of moral faux pas and stupidity, know this is the one where they've finally gone no. In the eternal words of Rick Sanchez, your boos mean nothing. I know what makes you cheer. Okay, so you're basically repeating the same point that you have made in the first tweet that you have done. And may I say, no, it's still bullcrap, because people have still called you out on all those other things. It's just this one, you got a lot more no's than usual. And also, may I say, you're quoting Rick Sanchez? You're literally quoting Rick from Rick and Morty? If you're at the point that you're unironically doing that, then you know that people, like, did you actually do that on purpose? Because, like, you know, this whole thing is just, like, are you doing that because, is this whole thing satire, by the way? Like, this entire thread, is it just satire of making fun of how people view you or something like that? Because no one on this earth will ever take you seriously if you're gonna unironically be quoting Rick from Rick and Morty. You might as well follow that up with a quote from the Joker. You might as well follow that up by saying, we live in a society. Like, seriously, man, that you're not helping yourself with that thing. And there are a few more that he did put out. Take a deep breath and practice self-care. I love you all and hope that we can build a better world together, devoid of hatred, fear, and anger of yesteryear. I'm going to listen to some country music and work on my next video. Have a lovely day and God bless. From John. And also an extra quote from Sarah saying, you want Mr. Enter trending? Get this fucking trending. Oh yeah, John, end this all off on a positive note. After that entire rant that is literally filled with hatred, fear, and anger, you decide to go and end this off with peace and love, everyone. Practice self-care. Take a deep breath. Are you freaking kidding me, dude? Like, this is how you're gonna end off, like, going on a major hate-filled rant where you're acting desperately entitled and desperately showing off your coping mechanisms? You're gonna end up with a little peace and love letter? That's not how it works, dude. That is not how it freaking works. And overall, with all this, like, immediately, like, just reading through all that, that's where the laughs of the whole situation, like, it is all gone. That's at the, like, right now, it is at the point where it is seriously concerning, because what we are seeing right now with Mr. Enter, he's becoming so self-destructive. Like, right now, like, he's putting all, like, he decided to go and not just double, but full on triple down on not just this whole controversy with Turning Red, but on everything that he has done in the past. Like, he has reverted back to attacking animators for doing their job and go so much worse with this. And even in recent years, we've kind of seen a transition where Mr. Enter has become more hate-filled and more spite-filled and more selfishly entitled, where the only person that he truly does care about is him and him alone. Not his friends, not his fans, and certainly not his family, just himself. And that's it. Or at least that's the way that he's presenting himself on social media. Some people could argue about how he is otherwise, but how he's showing himself on social media, like, with this thread alone, he is proving that he is just a self-entitled asshole, and that's it. And slowly but surely, we have seen those things that just makes him worse and worse and worse. Even the things that he has pointed out, that it feels like right now he seems to take pride in the things that made the internet so upset, that he seems happy with the fact that he attacked animators. He seems happy with the fact that he spread in misinformation, that he doesn't know how to do proper research on the things that he would go and talk about, and especially with the absolute rants that he would do in regards to actual serious issues. Like, especially with his comments on, saying that healthcare is not a human right, and all his anti-mask rants, it shows that he has a serious mental problem, to the point that he would go full on QAnon. And it makes me worried that he's going down this hate-filled path to the point that he's just going to become like a full-on and like a bland anti-woke channel. He's going to be nothing more but a quartering wannabe, where he's just going to go and continuously rant about things that are considered woke. And especially even with some of the subjects that he's going to talk about in the future, stuff like Mulan 2020 or She-Ra and High Guardian Spice and Masters of the Universe, he's going to go towards targets that have already been slandered so much by anti-woke groups. Mulan 2020, like, I can understand, like, why that would be a subject for, like, a review of why this movie is bad, but, like, the rest of it, you know, he's going to be going on, like, these typical anti-SJW rants. He has already been there, where in many of his recent reviews, you see him exaggerating social issues. Like, he literally, like, there's one video where he literally tried to say that we're in the end of the world, that society has been destroyed and ruined, all because of an Arthur cartoon that promotes wearing masks. Not to mention that he actually did have a history of even attacking his own fans. Like, there was one fan on his Discord that he threatened violence against because they were just promoting people to go and wear a mask during the pandemic. And this is not even to mention the constant misogynistic rants that he would go towards to go and attack feminism, that more frequently we have been seeing Mr. Enter try to go and attack feminism and frame them as a problem. Like, he's slowly but surely growing into an incel and seem to have grown this hatred for women. Like, that's what Mr. Enter is at right now. He's becoming more and more of an incel, and that's what I'm worried to see, is Mr. Enter, that with the reviews that he has coming soon, that he's gonna go, he's gonna become more and more and more of a hate-filled anti-SJW, constantly ranting about things being woke. Like, he'll be at the point where he's going to review things and determine if they are woke or not. Like, he'll say, like, you know what, this cartoon sucks, but one good thing about it is that at least it's not woke, so it is kind of watchable in that sense. Like, he'll be resorted to that kind of low life where he's going to base everything on, is it woke? And that's the direction that, like, that nobody wants to see Mr. Enter goes. Especially with the fact that, like, on top of that, like, he's just becoming a flat-out bully in general. There's even at one point where he even attacked he even attacked his former editor for, like, literally no reason. Like, there's one recent tweet that he has done where, like, the Crimson Mayhem, his former editor, someone who used to be very devoted to Mr. Enter and used to be very supportive of Mr. Enter, to the point where he would actually be editing his own videos. Like, he made a little tweet, like, just to make fun of the whole situation. Like, Mr. Enter has revived 9/11 jokes more faster than the majority of YouTube poops who've tried. And the response Mr. Enter made is, I revived 9/11 jokes faster than you could finish editing a review too. Like, seriously, what's the point of all this? Like, that is bullying. That is a flat out attack, and very unnecessary whatsoever. And that's unfortunately the point where Mr. Enter has ultimately become. He is so filled with spite and hatred that he just has become a full-on bully where all he can ever talk about is just hate. And I mean, it doesn't help either that he ended off, killed off his show in which he would talk about positive cartoons and things that he did enjoy. And I think overall with this, what we are seeing right over here is that Mr. Enter, I can unironically say, has a serious mental problem. He is, like, I know this is a term that's often been thrown a lot on social media and on the internet, but I just gotta say that Mr. Enter he is clinically ill. He has a serious mental illness that he has to deal with. And the way that he's trying to cope with it right now is extremely unhealthy. And like I said before, is extremely self-destructive. Even on his thread that he made before, he is actually self-aware of the fact that what he is doing is not good for him. He even said, I'm not going to shut up ever, despite my own good. He is aware that what he is doing right now is destroying him. And yet he's not going to stop doing so because he's filled with anger. He is filled with hate. And I am aware that with Mr. Enter, he has gone through a lot of very troublesome times. He's had some seriously bad things that I can't help but feel sorry for the guy. He had COVID this year, and I heard apparently his mother has actually recently passed away, which is not a fun experience to go through whatsoever. And I don't know what has ultimately happened, but he has become a highly toxic individual, which is why he's going on these misogynistic rants against that he's going on these misogynistic rants on feminism. And already the fact that he would say that healthcare is not a human right and that he's heavily against wearing masks and stuff like that, that should already be a sign that he has some kind of mental problem going on with him. No mentally stable human being would ever say those things. And yet Mr. Enter is at a point where he would just go and become worse and worse and worse. And right now he's at the point where he doesn't seem to comprehend. He doesn't know how to handle the serious situations that are going on with his life. He doesn't know how to handle being in a pandemic. He doesn't know how to handle the real life situations like having his mother pass away, and he doesn't know how to handle like being the center of like major controversy on the internet. And right now, all he's doing is just attack, making himself look superior to others, but all he's doing is just abandoning people. And even on his YouTube channel, he's been losing like thousands of subscribers because of this entire controversy. And that's why Mr. Enter should seriously seek medical help. Like, honestly, it's at the point right now that he should stop making videos. I am ready to go and like have him delete his entire channel if it needs to be that way. But the thing is, right now, what Mr. Enter should do is stop making videos altogether and try to seek medical attention. Try to go and find a therapist, find a psychiatrist, try to get some medicine. And like, even if Mr. Enter would be taking medication, he's got to really up the dosage right now. What he's going through is a serious mental illness. And right now, the cope that he's trying to do to handle like what he is going through, like it is not helping. It is really making things so much worse. And I fear for the path that Mr. Enter is going through in all this. Like, honestly, it's at the point where, yeah, like we can all go and make fun of like the stupid takes that he has had, the fact that he has never been improved, that he has never improved from how he was in the past and has gone on to like such delusional anti-woke and anti-masked rants that only a psychopath would only go and say. But he really does need help. He needs to stop making videos. He needs to stop doing what he's doing right now and actually find some actual help, even if it means going to like anger management or whatsoever. Yeah, I know some could argue that, well, technically this is his job, but he needs to stop altogether. He needs to have a moment to actually put his mental health first. Because this is not like what you see here with the whole threads and everything that he's been saying in his recent videos. These are not the rants of a healthy human being. This is someone who is he is pleading for help. He is like, yeah, he's calling out for attention, but he doesn't know how to handle the situation right now. And honestly, that's all I could really say about this whole situation. The dude needs medical attention. He needs to stop making videos and put himself first, where he can actually go and find proper therapy, get the right medication in order for him to be a more positive person, for the anti-woke rants to end, for the anti-masks rant to go and end, and be the Mr. Enter. There is a way for Mr. Enter to be beloved again, to be accepted back to the cartoon community. There are ways. We have seen how Mr. Enter can actually be a good cartoon reviewer. But the Mr. Enter that we do have now is garbage. He is purely toxic and needs to be removed on YouTube immediately. Someone who should not even be making a profit off of what he is doing right now. He needs to get away from it all, get away from his videos and get away from his fans, especially because right now they are enablers to his toxic behavior. And like right now, the people trying to defend him, my God, like they're trying hard, but they're not doing well. I even had one idiot on Facebook try to tell me like his defense is just, well, that's just what makes Mr. Enter Mr. Enter. Yeah, but that's what makes Mr. Enter a terrible reviewer and a horrible person that needs serious help. That's the whole, and honestly, I don't know if John would ever go and listen to this, but I just want to say, John, I know what you're going through right now with the whole Turning Red controversy is not fun, but I just got to say this right now. You got to stop. You got to stop. And you need to seek help. You need to put yourself first, and you need to accept right now that you have a problem. Your rants on healthcare, on feminism, on masks, and everything like that, it's not healthy. And no mentally stable human being would have that mindset in the beginning. You are sick. You need help. All right. Honestly, I don't want to put you down. I don't want to frame you as the enemy. I want to go and highlight that you need help. You need to have you need proper attention to go and heal you from whatever pain that you have inside. I know that you are hurting inside, regardless of what the situation may be, whether it be from your mother, whether it be what other situations that has happened in your life, whatever it be, like the reputation that you have on the internet. I know that you're hurting. Try to go and prioritize more than anything else to heal your hurt, even if it means stop making videos for months, years even. Like, try to put yourself first and try to go and heal yourself. John, you have a problem, and we're not here to scold you. We want you to heal yourself from the hurt that you have. Instead of sharing your hurt with everyone else, go and heal that hurt. All right. And that is my whole comment on the Mr. Enter situation. And I would like to go and pass on to you guys. How do you feel about the whole Mr. Enter controversy? Let me know what you all think on all this. Okay. Let's see, we're right over here. This is just BS. Wow, the movie is about a girl transforming into a giant panda, not about 9/11. This whole situation is just dangerous and shows how much Mr. Enter is becoming a monster and needs serious help. Oh yeah, fun fact, you know what has even more of a reference to 9/11? Klonoa, Empire of Dreams, North America release date. Don't believe me? Look it up. Just sad that even Klonoa has more of a notable part to 9/11 than Mr. Enter is trying to make with his Turning Red review. Just tragic. This is nothing but madness and dumb. This shows that people like Lily Orchard, Misanthropony, and of course Mr. Enter are just not only bad critics, but just horrible people. Not only his takes are bad, but it shows that they are toxic and that they show themselves online. I'm really that people like you, AniMat, are calling them out, because I remember the time when people say that Matt Pat, Valsky Bum, and Quinta Reviews are bad YouTubers, and now people are switching that towards Lily, Enter, and Map. Well, I don't think, like, I don't know if Lily Orchard ever had a moment where she was viewed as a good reviewer, but I know Misanthropony and Mr. Enter have always been bad reviewers. And yeah, they do need, and they do need to be called out, but especially in Mr. Enter case, like the fact that he's going in this anti-woke route and this anti-mask route, like most people with that mindset, he's just mentally sick. He just needs some serious help in order to heal whatever like pain that he has on the inside. That's really the case. We actually do have a comment here from Crimson Mayhem himself. Crimson, I'm sorry if this I'm sorry if this really put you down. I know that like this might be tough for you to watch, but hopefully you did enjoy the rest of the show. But anyways, he stated here, I am literally sad and depressed how low this has become. I have a few words to describe my extreme disappointment. I swear he was a smart guy at one point. As his former editor, I am honestly on the verge of tears and felt that I ultimately failed him. I wanted to save him from this turmoil. I hate it. I am terribly sorry. Okay, Chrism, I could already say right now that is a bad take, because honestly, this is not your fault. Do not blame yourself for this. This is not because, like, what Mr. Enter has become, this is not because of you. We all know that what you have done great work for Mr. Enter. You've done everything you can in order to make not just your work, but his work to be great as well. You've done everything possible that you can. And I know you get that feeling that what you have done may not necessarily be enough, but that is not your fault. You've done whatever you can, and in your mission of what you tried to do, it is already successful as is. It's just that the situation that you have faced is much worse than anyone could have ever expected. So I just want to say this, Crimson, this is not your fault whatsoever. I know you're a good dude, and I do believe you when you say that he was a smart guy before he went on his whole anti-woke and anti-mask brigade, that he was actually intelligent at one point. I do believe you that. And I'm sure that that smart Mr. Enter of him is still inside. There's just so much hate and pain that is with him that needs to be get rid of in order to find that. Let's see now. This solidifies why Mr. Enter is one of the worst animation reviewers on YouTube. Not the worst, since no one is ever going to top Misanthropony, but who goes into a Pixar film thinking, oh boy, I hope they talk about 9/11? Plus, his response can basically be boiled down to, yeah, I'm an unlikable dick, what are you going to do about it? And in the eternal words of Rick Sanchez, your parents are a bag of dicks. Wait, that's the best Rick quote I can find? Yeah, what a load of total scumblock. Yeah, there is a reason why it's not an intelligent thing to go and quote Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. You just don't do that. Especially if you want to be in a position that you want to make yourself look better than the people who criticize you. It ain't gonna freaking work, man. Again, you might as well quote the Joker and say we live in a society. Okay, I was 5 when 9/11 happened and 6 when this movie takes place, May of 2002. I have no memory of 9/11. Enter is yours and my older sister's age. Was he really thinking about 9/11 when he was a 9-year-old boy? Yeah, maybe his parents were freaking out and it probably affected him, but it wouldn't affect him 24/7. I honestly want to know what the hell Enter wants in modern animation. Other than aesthetic, what does he want this story to be? I've read his book. He can't write. Who knows, man? Like, really, who knows? Maybe the way that he grew up with is just flat out terrible. And his his childhood is the kind that nobody would like to have. And that kind of perspective can really warp his modern viewpoints on animation. So there is that. Let's see now. Here's my response to Enter's take. You fool! But in all seriousness, his take on Turning Red is very tasteless, and it's definitely the worst take he's given to a movie. His response to the whole situation is so weak and terrible that that guy has no heart and instead uses cope to say that he doesn't give a shit to anything that people like. Seriously, Mr. Enter, you're nothing but an entitled asshole. You really need some aid. Please go and get some serious help. I mean, sad to say, he's right. Let's see now. I remember watching Turning Red, and not once did I ever think that the movie needed any kind of reference to 9/11. The fact that Mr. Enter is bringing up that when talking about the movie where the main character turns into a giant fluffy red panda is honestly scary. Honestly, does anyone realize that this guy is mad at Turning Red for not mentioning 9/11, but seems not to bring up Monsters, Inc., which did not even mention 9/11, even though it was released less than 2 months after the event happened? You never know, man. And you know what? I'm going to read one more comment before we cap this off. Like, we're already going so long. Or 2 more comments, actually. 2 more. This was one of the stupidest takes I've heard from Mr. Enter. Bringing 9/11 into this way was really dumb, as Turning Red is about going through puberty and family traumatization. Yes, just because it took place in 2002 doesn't mean it has to add 9/11 to this. He and Misanthropony has become worse of the worst in not proving their criticisms, and they're only hurting themselves even more. I say his takes is more ludicrous than Doug Walker's takes, where even Doug Walker doesn't go this far. He needs help. Yeah, this is one of the rare occurrences where Doug Walker and the nostalgia critic in general is already looking so much better than Mr. Enter. Even Doug Walker's silence on the whole change the channel controversy is way better than how Mr. Enter is handling his controversy right now. Like, at this point, Mr. Enter is already on a mission to try to collect all the L's that he can. This is so far the worst take I've ever heard on Turning Red so far, and it's none other than Jonathan Enter. He's really making himself look worse than ever, and he's making it than he's ever done in any movie or show that he has reviewed. Anyways, my May pop figure just arrived in the mail just now, so happy today. Nice. All right, one more before we go now. Oh, look, Mr. Enter said something controversial. In other news, water is wet. Okay, in all seriousness, this is one of the many reasons why I had to unsubscribe from Mr. Enter's channel. It's one thing if a popular movie just wasn't for you. Okay, he didn't go as far as to verbally attack the filmmaker or the people who liked the Turning Red film this time, but this type of criticism tells us nothing. As somebody who lived on a military base when 9/11 happened, my family found a way to move on before 2002. And sad to say, I think, he didn't do that on the video, but he certainly did attack the fans on, he certainly did attack everybody with this entire thread. So even at that, this really shows that Mr. Enter has reverted back to his worst behavior, that he has not improved himself whatsoever. And again, to cap all this off, he needs help. And with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Good thing I only kept it down to 4 stories instead of 5, right? I told you I had a lot to say about this. But anyways, hopefully we won't be this extensively long for next time though. But we will still maintain all the craziness that will be in store in the future. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.